We are gold and blue, born in 1872, the greatest team in the world. We are known as we follow on. We are the people through and through, the gold and blue since.
Good afternoon, all. Welcome to another episode of Bold and Blue 1872. My name is Chris, I would typically, at the time of recording now, we are on Monday afternoon, early afternoon. I would typically say I hope we are having a good start to our weekend, but I think that's probably, I already know what the answer is there. It's the day after the Old Firm, and not going to lie, feeling a little bit delicate today. May have started the day out yesterday with the intent of I like my tonic. I think some people are already aware of that, but instead of having an enjoyable little bevy for the game, maybe transpired into drowning my sorrows a little bit too long into the day, shall we say, yesterday. So a little bit delicate. But wanted to get a video up and just reflect on the game yesterday. So let's get into it. Yesterday I was really optimistic. Me and Jack the other day there, we were talking about the brand game and how you can get sucked in, and the optimism is there, and we have a couple of good results. Obviously not the brand game, but Kelly, and we do pretty well against Hibs, you're starting to get a feeling that maybe Danny Rohl is onto something, and maybe he can get a tune out of these players. And I'm looking across the other side of Glasgow, and I'm just seeing an absolute basket case. I genuinely think that this is one of the worst Celtic teams that I can remember for a very long time. After just sacking Rodgers and some other off-field stuff that I won't go into detail here for fear of potential retribution from a legal perspective, but some rumours about some off-field stuff going on with one of their players as well. So whether or not that's true, time will tell. But I'm looking across the road, and I'm thinking these guys are there for the taking, regardless of everything that's going on with the summer farewell Stewart, with the Martin era. Roll's had a couple of good results. So again, I'm optimistic, but I have to say, the starting lineup comes out about an hour before the game, and I'm not as optimistic as I was. I've went back and forth on this with a number of people before the game, after the game. I don't disagree with the three at the back, and the the kind of 3-5-2 approach. I just think some of the personnel didn't really make sense to me. I was struggling. It did appear to me from the outset that was going to be a three at the back in defence and attack, because I think we've seen plenty of evidence that Legaue and certainly Tav are not going to be best equipped to be sorting out that defence if need be. But but on top of that, I was concerned that there didn't seem to be any kind of ball carriers in the team. I was a little bit concerned about how we were going to get forward. Mikey Moore had done really well in the last couple of games, and even though I've slated that boy, I'll give him his dues. He's looked well, and we'll go on to subsequently he comes on later on. But Mikey Moore, I think probably could have started. Gassama, I think he has to play. He has to start. I'm looking at Chermiti up front. Now, I know Majovski's not exactly set the world alight, but his record against Celtic is pretty decent. And the way you're playing with Danilo, playing off the back of the 9, your focal point seems to be Chermiti, and I've already said before, I just don't think that boy's prolific, and he's young, he's inexperienced, obviously. I mean, he's 21, so how young is he? But he's definitely inexperienced, that's for sure. So is Miovski not a bit more, probably not a better shout in a game like that? I don't know. So that the starting lineup for me was a bit of a concern, and what transpired in the first half, I have to say, we'll go on to the refereeing decisions in a minute, but the first kind of 20 minutes, I was very disappointed with how the team had started. Celtic were all over us, for lack of a better description. We didn't seem up for the fight. This is an old firm, and I've spoken about this before. We are definitely lacking leaders in that team, and I was hoping that Danny Rohl. I was hoping that there was a bit of something to Danny Rohl. I know he doesn't, like I said before in the past, he doesn't necessarily come across as a kind of Steven Gerrard or a Muscat, and I'm not going to keep talking about those guys. I mean, obviously, I've said in the past I was disappointed, so I don't know. I'm thinking in the first kind of 20 minutes, a Stevie Gerrard team or even maybe a Muscat team, are they coming out there and showing basically such a lackluster performance in the first kind of 20-30 minutes? I was really disappointed. So yeah, I mean, we'll run through the game. I've got a number of different highlights here, and I want to. I'll get to the stats at the end of the game, because I do think that there's a story to be told, and like I said, that the refereeing decisions needs to be discussed. But yeah, so the game kicks off. Like, we're probably, despite Celtic's dominance in the kind of first kind of 15-20 minutes, fellow Asgard does get a decent shot off. It's coming in from the left, turns it onto his right foot, and hits a decent shot. It's a fairly comfortable save from Schmeichel, but fellow gets a shot off, and then a few minutes later, the Celtic are on the attack. The ball comes through, bit of ping pong. It's the Celtic team play the ball through. It looks like it's offside, but the boy runs back onside. Then the Celtic, there's a second phase with the Celtic player where he knocks it on, and it looks as if Kenny's back onside. But he chips it over. The Jigger smacks it. It comes off the back of Raskin's elbow, it looks like, goes into the net. But ultimately, VAR pulls it back. Fraction. I mean, I seen the line was drawn, and by a fraction, it's given as offside against them. So we get away with one. That's in the 18th minute. We're very lucky not to be 1-0 down. Then we got the part that there's this is where, despite my frustrations in the first half, we do create some cracking chances, right? Dio puts an excellent ball through to Big Chermiti. Chermiti is clean through on goal. It's harder to miss than it is to score, and he puts it wide, and it's a glorious opportunity for us to take the lead, and he misses it. It's one that Dessers would have been proud of, to put it lightly. And boy, Dessers leaving in the summer. I still think Dessers leaving in the summer was the right decision, but obviously I expected us to bring in something better. But boy, is that looking like a fumble of the ball, if you want. Because that was a shocker from Chermiti yesterday, absolute shocker. I know the boy's getting a lot of pelters, and we'll come back onto him in a moment again. But that you've got to bury that, Chermiti. That's an absolute sitter. And then, a few minutes later, Celtic go down the other end of the park. Corner comes in. I mean, what is it with us in corners, honestly? Some of the lads we've got at the back, they're big boys, and we just, again, said this in the past, just absolutely atrocious in the air. Kenny, who's about a foot shorter than our centre backs, pops up, sticks the head in the back of the net. And it's just same old from Rangers, just balls coming into the box and shocking defending. And Magoma is probably Magoma. It looks as the one that's marking Kenny and isn't anywhere near it. So yeah, Kenny, 24 minutes down, and we're 1-0 down. And then Kenny, I don't know. I've not really watched enough of Kenny. I've heard his name floated around, and I've got a few wrongians, let's call them, as friends, and they do rate him. But I don't know if I feel that we definitely made that boy look a lot better than he is yesterday. And a few minutes later he pops up again. Quite a crisp, clean strike. He's through on goal. But Butland makes a decent save, and we'll talk about Butland in more detail. Obviously, he made some cracking saves throughout the game, but we'll get into more detail in a moment. But a couple of minutes later, we're back up the park again, and again this is another golden opportunity. Danny makes a sublime pass through and puts Raskin clean in. And Raskin, I don't know, it almost looks like he panics. Instead of putting the ball across the keeper, he kind of, it delays on it a bit, and it's a kind of, just a very wasteful shot. And Schmeichel makes a very comfortable save, and that's at that point in time we probably should be at least 2 goals better off than we are, and it's Raskin this time, so there's no excuse. I mean, experience-wise, maybe you could give that to Chermiti, but Raskin has to do a lot better. And this for me is a recurring theme with this team. I don't want to call them bottle jobs, but we created opportunities yesterday and didn't put the ball in the back of the net when it mattered. A couple of minutes later, again, Tav puts a very, very decent free kick into the box. Chermiti's, no one's marking Chermiti. He's all alone. Could he head it? Could he get something better on it than what he did? Absolutely. Again, a glorious opportunity, and Chermiti's offered nothing. So at this point, I'm just getting really frustrated, right? I mean, the players that I don't think should be on the park at the start of the game are the ones that I'm seeing let us down. Jiggy at the back is shocking. Soapy at the back is shocking. Going forward, Chermiti's shocking. Do you know what I mean? Our senior players, Raskin, has to do better. He has a much better second half for what it's worth, but the first half, I think Raskin's shocking. 37th minute, Engels has a very decent shot, but Butland makes a very good save. And then the main talking point of the game, 37th minute, just after the Engels shot, ball comes up to into the Celtic box. Celtic box, I can't remember what defender it is, kicks it away. Fellow Asgard, I'm not sure what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing. He's it's like, remember that back in FIFA 99 or whatever it was, you used to be able to do that little flip over your back of your head, and it's almost as if he appears to do that, but he tries to control it, flips it back over his head, and then loses control of it and continues to drive towards the ball. Unfortunately, has his foot in the air and collides with Ralston. and drags his studs down Raskin's shorts. Down Ralston's shorts. You can see Ralston's shorts are ripped. There's a bit of blood there, a bit of a scuff mark down Ralston. Ralston's making the most of it. Look, going down like he's just been shot. I mean, it did look a sore one in fairness, but obviously dark arts that the Celtic team should seem to be. And I'll get onto this in a bit more detail later, but the whole Celtic team start going ballistic, coming towards the ref, pushing the Rangers players, getting into it with Asgard and Chermiti and all sorts. And, you know, the referee doesn't even think twice. He just pulls out the red straight away. Doesn't seem that there's any review by VAR. At least it certainly didn't seem to be mentioned. So they must have obviously thought it wasn't even a questionable decision. Straight red for fellow Asgard, and we're down to 10 men. Now, what I would say about this, right? I don't think it's a red card. I've seen a lot of former officials, etc., and a lot of pundits. They all say it was. A lot of them are saying it's a red card. I don't think it's a red card. I don't see how you can. You know, is he a bit reckless and is he lost control? Maybe, yeah. Is his foot that high? I don't think it's that high. It's certainly not above the waist. Is there an intent there? I don't think there's any intent whatsoever. I think he's going for the ball. It's definitely a yellow. But I think it's, and you know, I'm sure people will disagree with this, and that's fine. But I think it's a bit harsh, just a tad harsh. I can see why it's been given, but I think it's a tad harsh, and it sets the tone for the rest of the game as well in terms of refereeing decisions. And we'll get onto that in more detail, but it definitely sets the tone for why he made that decision there and why Walsh did not go on and make the same decision for other things that happened, that transpired. So, but yeah, fellow gets sent off, and I don't. The first half was shocking. Despite the chances we had, and you know, shocking as well because they missed those chances and they shouldn't have. But yeah, we go into the second half, and so Danny comes off, and I don't agree with that decision. I thought that was the wrong substitution. Danny goes off, and Gassama. I think Gassama's the right. He should be coming on, but I don't think Danny should have been going off. I think there was. De Gea was having an absolute shocker. De Gea ends up seeing out the whole 120 minutes. I mean, obviously we go into extra time and we'll talk about that again. But De Gea is absolutely shocking in the first half. I'm thinking to myself, you know, surely the right call here is you bring Tav into the back and you bring Gassama on, and you know. I don't know. I don't think it was the right decision, but nonetheless, the second half, we start a lot more brightly. There's a lot more fight. Whatever's been said in the dressing room, there's definitely a lot more fight to the players in the second half. But nonetheless, and I don't think enough is being made of this. Celtic continue to create a lot of chances in the second half. We are definitely controlling the game, but we're not creating chances. We're not really creating many chances. I'll go through this in a bit of detail here. So, 63rd minute it takes before there's really any kind of highlight or low light, whatever you want to call it. Is it Negrin? The Celtic centre half. He's up. He sticks the head on it. He's only about maybe, I don't know, 5 meters in front of Butland, and Butland gets down and makes a cracking save, and it's a right good save from Butland. 68 minutes, Forrest rattles the crossbar. Could have easily went in. 74 minutes, Butland saves a decent shot from Forrest. Do you know what? And those three opportunities to Celtic are fairly. I mean, we'll go on to some of the opportunities that Rangers created in the second half, but up until what we'll go on to next, which is the handball shout, Celtic create the far better chances, even though we're dominating the game in terms of controlling the game in the midfield and etc. But we're not really creating chances. So yeah, a lot's been made about that second half performance, but ultimately, there wasn't a great deal of chances. Certainly, up until the handball, where, and this is another decision by the referee where, there's a clear opportunity. It looks as if the shot's on target. It looks as if the ball's going underneath Ralston. Ralston tucks his arms under his body, dives. If the ball doesn't hit his arm, it looks as if it's going to go underneath him. So clearly, you've stopped a clear goal scoring opportunity, probably going in the back of the net. To be honest, so from that perspective, it's a clear penalty. I don't know what the Celtic fans are complaining about with that one. It's a clear goal scoring opportunity that's been stopped by Ralston's hand. So it's definitely a penalty. What I will say is, it does not look at all like it's deliberate, right? In fairness to the boy, not a fan of Ralston, by the way, but obviously, but in fairness to the boy, he's tucked his arm under, so it's not deliberate. And I think a lot of people maybe the rule. My understanding is the rules have changed on this, and it's it doesn't necessarily. A lot of people are saying it should have been a second yellow for Ralston, who was already on a yellow card. But it certainly doesn't necessarily mean that he should have got that yellow card. If it's not intentional, I don't think it's a yellow card. So from that perspective, I was personally just happy that we've got the penalty. So Tav steps up and puts a delightful ball in the back of the net, as he does. Tav, for all my criticism of him over the years, I've never really had a great chance to come on here and talk about Tav, as I mentioned with Jack on the last pod. Someday I'll do a full pod about Tav, I think, but he stepped up when it was counted and put the ball quite comfortably in the back of the net from that penalty. It was a lovely penalty. Schmeichel had no chance. But yeah, the penalty decision aside, let's talk a little bit about the trustee, fiasco, if you want. I don't know about this one. I'm going to piss a lot of people off. I think I'm going to piss a lot of people off with this one. Trustee's through. Butland gets to the ball first. It's clear that Butland's got the ball. He's in control of the ball. Trustee's got no chance of getting it. For some reason, Trustee leaves his foot out and kind of grazes Butland's head. Now, I don't think that's a straight red. I don't think it's a straight red. Until you go back and you look at the fellow one that I touched on earlier on, and if that's a straight red, I mentioned earlier on, you set the tone for the rest of that game. You set the standard for the rest of that game. So regardless if it was intentional, because I still don't think it was intentional. I can't really explain why he's left his foot in there, but it looked natural, if that makes sense. I don't, in fairness to the boy, I just don't think it was intentional. It seems like a really just daft lack of I don't know, nous to not leave your foot in there. So I don't know what he was thinking, but I just, something tells me it wasn't intentional. So from that perspective, I don't think it's a red. But again, going back to the fellow one, that certainly wasn't intentional either. And you could definitely argue putting your foot in there when somebody's head's on the ground is far more dangerous than what Fellow did. So by that standard, it has to be a red. If you're giving Fellow that red, the trusty one has to be a red. So regardless if I think either of them should have been a red to start with, Walsh, you've set the tone for the first one. You've got to send that boy off. And subsequently, every pundit, every former referee that's going at the moment is saying that it should have been a straight red. So maybe I'm wrong as well in terms of whether or not I think the Fellow one, everyone seems to be saying that should have been a red, and everyone's saying the trusty one should have been a red. Whether my initial concept of what should be a red is accurate or not, that's a matter of opinions. But absolutely, once you've set the tone with that Fellow one, you've got to send Trusty off. You have to. So we've been done there. We've been absolutely done. Absolutely done. Don't think the Ralston one was a second yellow. Like I said, I've explained that. But the Trusty one, we've been absolutely done. He should have been off. That should have been down. That should have been 10 against 10. And ultimately, as the game transpires, I think it would have made a massive difference. Massive difference. So we're at 1-1 anyway. Tav scored the penalty. Couple of minutes later, again, I go back to Celtic continue to create more chances in the second half, regardless of whether or not we're in control. Osman gets through, Butland makes another decent save. Towards the end of the game, Hatate's through and misses an absolute sitter, to be quite honest with you. I'll talk about the stats overall of the game and at the end, because I do want to talk about what part did Rohl play in this. And I do want to talk about the perception that I feel a lot of fans have had about the game overall between the first half and the second half. In terms of chances created, I don't actually see much of an argument in terms of that performance in the second half. So, but we go into extra time again against Celtic at Hampden, and I'm very sceptical. How long can you how much after what all we've put into that second half, where again the team were definitely trying their best. Whether or not the quality is there is a different thing, and the chances created wasn't enough for me. I don't want to keep repeating it, but I think it's worth stressing. But how long can you run around with 10 men against 11? So I'm sceptical. Extra time for me, we're really up against it, regardless of how we appeared to have maybe had a bit more grip between our teeth in that second half, and that's pretty much how it transpires. There's not a great deal going on in the second half up until McGregor. I don't know. Like he's. Like I said, I've got a few Wrongians as friends, and they think McGregor's shot. They think he's done, but it's against us, and we've given him space. He hits credit to the lad. He hits a cracking shot from about 30 yards maybe, and Soapy ducks for some reason. Maybe he's scared that he's going to deflect it in. But ultimately, Butland has clear sight of that for plenty of time after it comes over Butland's head. You can see it in the replay that he should get a hand to it, and actually it does. But he deflects it into his own goal pretty much. For me, for all I've talked about Butland in this game, and there's another couple of saves to come from Butland as well. A couple of the saves were really good, but this is Jack Butland, isn't it? He should have saved it. I'm not going to blame Butland for the loss. No, far from it. He kept us in the game, you could argue. I'm probably more critical of the team for letting McGregor get that shot off and giving them that space, but. It's a bad one from Butland. They should have saved it. They really should have saved it. And we're now 2-1 down. As I've said, extra time. 10 men versus 11. I joked on X a couple of days ago as well that it was 15 against 11 before the game even started, in terms of those refereeing appointments. And again, we'll talk about that in more detail in a minute. But yeah, 2-1 down. 96th minute, Osman gets a header. Butland makes a good save. 99th minute, Gassama, for me, has to do a lot better. He's through in goal. Just again, similar to Raskin in the first half, he just kind of delays. He seems unsure, and kind of, hits a meaningless shot, and Schmeichel makes a very easy save. Gassama again needs to do much better there. So yeah, and then ultimately 108 minutes on the clock. I don't know. It looked like it was almost like a shot. Was it Engels? I think it was. I don't think it was a pass, but it turns out to be it turns out to be a pretty sublime pass. Osman pops up, going right through the middle of our defence, and just an easy tap into the goal, and it's 3-1, and it's done. There's no going back. So, yeah, the extra time we didn't offer much, did we? We really didn't, and it's no surprise. I can only assume the team were busting a gut. Some of the substitutions we made, Joe Rothwell came on in extra time, absolutely stank the place out. I don't know where is that guy that was playing for Leeds? I don't know what's happened with him. He's shocking. He's absolutely shocking. And I mentioned before, you'd expect with his experience, he should have been someone that came in and showed a bit of leadership. But he's been absolutely honking. Max Aarons comes on. Swear to God, man, he's like a big booty daddy when he's running after that ball with that arse of his, man. He's terrible, man. He's terrible. He offers nothing. I know Miovski had come on in the second half, didn't do much at all either. So maybe that's me saying that Miovski should have started. That's a damning indication that it didn't really matter who we started in the number 9 spot, but he doesn't do much, and Ant-Man is stinking. Mikey Moore comes on in the second half, but I think that I was very valid in thinking that he should have started the game. He played very well, very, very well, and credit to him. I've given that, like I've said before, I've given him it stinking, but Mikey Moore definitely shown signs of being a much better player under Rohl. He did quite well, so credit to the boy, and I think he definitely needs to be starting moving forward, because Fellow, I mentioned he got that shot off at the start of the game, and then obviously gets the red card, but he was stinking as well. So it's just a shit game, isn't it? It's hard to watch. You create chances and you don't have the quality to put the ball in the back of the net. Really lackluster performance in the first half. But let's talk about the refereeing decisions, right? I mean, we spoke about them there. Ultimately, I said earlier on before the game, I said it was 15 versus 11. Connor, Dallas, Walsh, Robertson. It's just a who's who of Rangers fuckery in the past, isn't it? It's the serial apologists when it comes to Rangers mistakes. And yeah, if Stuart ever wanted to seize an opportunity to try and get the fans back on side, this is it. Do I have any confidence that he will? I don't. But he should be out there today, all guns blazing, official club statement. We're demanding a response on those appointments. We're demanding a response on why Trusty wasn't given a red card, and Fellow was. We should be out there making it clear that we're not going to stand for this, because they do it, and it's so it's so frustrating that all they're doing, they won 3-1 yesterday, an Old Firm semi-final, and all you can hear from them today is them bitching and moaning about the refereeing decisions against them. That's what they do. I mean, could you imagine if they lost the match? Jesus, you know. And there we are, just, you know, Stuart needs to come out. I just don't think he's going to do it, you know, and it just kind of, it's an indication of how bad an appointment Stuart is, that he wouldn't even recognise that there's such an opportunity out there to come out and maybe try and claw back if it's even possible. Try and claw back a bit of good grace with the Rangers support and deal with this head on. But I just don't think he will. Don't think he will. Is it bias? I mean, I've heard people using the word corruption. I think corruption is a strong word. That implies that the referees are benefactors of the decisions that they're making. You could argue that maybe if they are Celtic supporters, they're benefactors in the fact that their team is getting the benefit of those decisions. But I don't know if corruption is the right word. There's definitely a bias. I mean, the referees are appalling. It's not just take the bias and corruption accusations out of the equation. Every club in Scotland complains about our referees. They're appalling. They're just not fit for purpose. They're really bad. So take that out, take that into the equation, and then you think about all the pressure that Celtic put on them whenever they make a decision that could even be remotely perceived as being the wrong decision against them. I just think that they're inept at their job, and they are bottling it more so than the corruption allegations. I just think they're really bad at their job, and they bottle it every time there's even one of the lads on the chat yesterday said even a 70-30 decision, and I mean 70% in favour of us. They bottle it. They don't want to give it. And that's what happened with Trusty. You know, again, I don't think the Ralston one's a second yellow. So, I mean, I'm sure I'll get pelters for that. That's fine. Just my opinion. Don't think it was intentional. So, I think it's a grey area, that one, in terms of what the rules actually are. But Trusty won all day long. If the Fellow standard has been set, Trusty should have been off. So, let's see what Stuart does. I know there was some reports last night that we have approached the SFA for and made a complaint, or certainly we've asked them to explain some of the decisions. But I think it needs to be a lot more aggressive than that, way more aggressive. So let's see what happens. I do want to talk about one thing, right? I did mention I had a little tipple last night, right? As you do, I was engaging in some casual talk on X with fellow Bears, some casual talk on the WhatsApp group, etc. But in particular on X, I was engaged in a few conversations, and I was astounded. I criticised Rohl last night. I thought Rohl. Sorry, I'm still getting used to that. I thought Rohl got the starting lineup wrong, as I mentioned earlier on. But I don't think Rohl did enough in the first half to change things. Like I said earlier on, the Legaue was stinking the place out. You know, we finish 120 minutes with the Legaue, Soapy, and Cornelius still on the park. Cornelius was decent, but you know, how bad is Fernandez? Is he that bad? Is he really that bad? I've seen enough of Enciala that suggests he's better than some of those options. Like he had a couple of bad games last season, but definitely had quite a few good games as well. I've seen enough of him to suggest that he's better than a couple of those options. But he's not even on the bench. So yeah, the fact that those three centre backs seen out the entire game, the entire 120 minutes. I think Rohl could have done more in the first half to change things. By the time that he did change things, and like I said, second half we did control it, but didn't create much. So if you want to say that he did change things in the second half and it improved things, I'd agree. But did we change it enough to start creating enough chances? Most of our clean-cut chances were actually in the first half, where we were abysmal. Yeah, so I mean, is it his fault that Chermiti's shocking? Is it his fault that Raskin doesn't finish the chance he gets? Is it his fault that Gassama doesn't finish the chance he gets? No, it's not. But I definitely think that Rohl had a part to play in this last night. So I'd mentioned this to a couple of bears in conversation last night, and the abuse I got, it's as if me and Jack were talking about this the other day. There, Rohl seems to have a ridiculous amount of credit in the bank with the Rangers fans because of the situation that he's coming into. But could he have done things better yesterday? I think that there's an argument to say he could. It can't just be, it's all the players' fault in the first half, but everything positive in the second half was all Danny Rohl. One doesn't exist without the other, right? Danny Rohl could have made decisions in the first half. Why didn't he do that? Danny Rohl could have, made better choices with his starting lineup. Danny Rohl, for whatever reason, has dropped Cameron. Apparently, Cameron is not injured. No one knows what's going on there. He, for me, would have been ideal for yesterday. And he wasn't even on the bench. Enciala wasn't on the bench. So he's not untouchable. He's, I'm not blaming Rohl for yesterday's result, by the way. Don't get me wrong, but he's definitely got a part to play in that result. He's not untouchable. So yeah, I was I got into it with a few fans last night, and like I said, wasn't blaming Danny Rohl, but definitely thought that he could have did things better. So I don't know what it says about Danny Rohl. I mean, like I said, he seems to have a ridiculous amount of credit in the bank that he's not earned. Do I still have a chip on my shoulder about the fact that one of the lads that I did want to be appointed, Gerrard and Muscat, I think I've made it clear. I did want them certainly ahead of anyone, never mind Danny Rohl. Do I still have a chip on my shoulder there, maybe? I did mention earlier on, I don't think that the lackluster performance that we've seen in the first half in terms of passion, fight, grit, determination, I don't think that would have been lacking if it was Gerrard that was the manager yesterday. But I don't blame Danny Rohl, but like I said, that he's not untouchable. So what does it say about him, the result yesterday? I don't know. We covered the Kelly game last week. Me and myself and Jack didn't have a chance to get on with the Hibs game, but two decent results. You'd expect to beat Kelly at home comfortably, to be honest. It's not even Kelly away is a different story, and it's not a McInnes Kelly anymore. So I mean, beating them at home should be a comfortable result anyway. The Hibs won. Hibs, a decent team, had went a lot of games without losing at home, and we show up and beat them. But it was a close game. But there was definitely positive signs there from Rohl. So Not taking that away from him just because of yesterday's result, but I think he got some things wrong yesterday. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I mean, what can you do? Like I said, when people are missing chances, when Fellow does what Fellow did, even though again, I don't think it should have been a red card. He's yeah. Let's see what the future holds for Rohl, but he could have done better yesterday, I think. So yeah, I do. Ultimately, I went through the highlights earlier on. You probably noticed the vast majority of the highlights from yesterday's game. I would probably consider them lowlights because the vast majority of the opportunities was Celtic, and a lot of them were in the first half, and a fair number of them were before, including their first goal was before the Fellow sending off. So it's worth noting we were pretty shocking before the Fellow sending off. Did the refereeing decisions ultimately drive that loss yesterday? I'm not sure. I think there's a good chance we lose that game yesterday with 11 versus 11. 12 shots off target, 10 shots on target. Celtic, so 22 shots, 10 of them on target. Rangers, 8 off target, 3 on target. So 11 shots, 3 of them on target. 10 shots on target versus 3 shots on target. That's Celtic. 14 corners for Celtic, 5 corners to Rangers. And yeah, I think stats are one thing, but I don't think the second half was as good as people are making out. I think they had by far the better chances in the second half as well. So I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? When you go down to 10 men, you just never know. Fellow was stinking anyway, so I would have hooked him at half time or even sooner than that. But he does get the red card, and ultimately you never know what could have been if we had 11 versus 11. But I think the stats would suggest that we might have lost that game anyway yesterday, to be quite honest. And it's disappointing because that Celtic team are pish. So what are we? Those players yesterday, some of them, I've mentioned, De Jager. He needs to be sent packing as soon as possible, and we need to find a solution there. Aarons, never should be playing for us. Looks like he's towing a caravan every time he runs with that fat arse of his, honestly. Chermiti, try to be fair to this boy, but he was honking yesterday. Those chances he missed. What can you do when you're creating chances like that and your 8 to 10 million pound striker is missing sitters? Raskin was pretty bad in the first half. I think that Butland was really good for most of the game, apart from that goal that he should have saved, in my opinion. I think Tavernier, I've heard a lot of people saying that he did quite well, and he did. Tavernier does tend to do quite well when you don't ask him to defend. Do you know what I mean? I said that as a joke to a couple of the boys yesterday, and they were laughing, but it was tongue in cheek. But it's true. Tavernier did well because he wasn't being asked to defend. But he did kind of drag a few of the players through in the second half. But I don't want to keep repeating this. I don't think the second half was as good as people are making it out to be. Just don't. And it brings me to my last thing, right? I mean, Danny Rohl versus Martin O'Neill yesterday. What you could see there was, I mentioned the Celtic players going ballistic at Walsh when Fellow had filled Ralston. And it was the same for, like, if you go and watch the trusty foul on Butland, there was nothing like the reaction that the Celtic players had with the foul on Raston. It's the dark arts that Rohl needs to get clued up on, things like that. Our club in general needs to get a bit better at just putting more pressure on the officials the way that the other mob does. But yeah, I think dark arts yesterday made a difference. And Rohl probably is inexperienced, was shown from that perspective yesterday. As has been the case with other Rangers managers, in my opinion. So I'd like to see him I'd like to see the players a bit more animated and on the ref's back when it comes to some of those decisions yesterday. Because I think potentially the game was won and lost because of that. Maybe I'm sensationalizing it too much there. Hyperbolic, I don't know, but if they don't react the way they did, this fellow gets the red card immediately without hesitation. If we reacted that way, does Trusty end up getting the red card? I could argue yes on both occasions. So yeah, listen, we've got Roma coming up next. Roma, not having a good season, by the way. Roma. How much can we? Again, me and Jack were talking the other day. I mentioned on the last pod. Should we just put all our eggs into the league basket this year and forget about Europe, considering it's highly unlikely we're going to progress in Europe at this point? And I didn't think maybe that was a good idea financially, but ultimately, the league and the Scottish Cup are all we really have to play for. So yes, we go away to Roma, and we will see how that goes. Not optimistic, even if Roma are not having the best season. We will see. But yeah, listen, I do thank you all for joining me. Had to fly solo today. Jack unfortunately couldn't make it for anyone that's a fan of the big man. But hopefully Jack will join me again on the next one. I've droned on for 50 minutes now. If you've been able to stay with me until now, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Fast approaching 1,100 subscribers. It's phenomenal, and the support for the channel continues to take my breath away. To be honest. But yeah, let's put this behind us. If I've upset anybody about my criticism of Rohl, I don't care. It's my opinion. He's but it's early days for Rohl, so I'm certainly not judging him based on yesterday. But I'm hoping for better days. There's good signs there, some good signs. So, what can he pull us through until January is the question. Can we keep within touching distance of where we are in the league, and not drop any more points, and hope Hearts and Celtic do drop some points, which I think is definitely a possibility, and get us to January. January cannot come soon enough. Is the confidence there? We've got the right people to help us get things right in January. No, it's not. For me, it's not at all. I didn't even mention this today, but Felwell's just made another appointment there to the academy, and other jobs for the boys' effort. Lad that he used to work with at Wolves, can't even remember his name, but Wolves, who I don't know. I'm not massive on the Premier League, but I don't recall Wolves being a standout club for bringing through young players. But one of Farewell's old pals has come up from Wolves, and he's now a academy director, I believe it is, or head of the academy, whatever role it is he's doing. I've chatted long enough, but how's Kavanagh let that one happen? Everything that's been going on, all the criticism about Robbie Farewell and other jobs for the boys that Farewell's been bringing in, the signings that he's made, and Kavanagh, you can only assume, or maybe it's Stewart that's called the shots on some of these, but I believe Kavanagh would have to have a say in it. How tone deaf is it? Is it ignorance? Does he just not give a fuck? I don't know. But I mentioned in the last video, I'm done talking about Felwell and I'm done talking about Stewart. In terms of they continue to be in their position at the club. Kavanagh is now my focus, and yeah, another appointment that just seems so tone deaf, and he's let it happen. So anyway, I hope Rohl can get us through to January, and we'll see where we go from there. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done with this team, a lot of work. Anyway, again, thank you very much for sticking with me for almost an hour. We'll be back probably this time next week, just to review the week that was, and hopefully there's some positive results in there. But yeah, until next time, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your week. Put yesterday behind you, and yeah, until next time, thank you.
We are gold and blue, born in 1872, the greatest team in the world. We are known as we follow on. We are the people through and through, the gold and blue since 1872. With our hearts on fire, we rise to the call. Through the highs and lows, we'll never fall. Glasgow Rangers standing proud and true. Together we sing for the gold and